welcome back to Monday Night Football on Radio Saltaire. I am joined on the line now by Craig Leitch. Craig, are you there?
I am here.
You are. Thank you very much for joining me, Craig, and thank you first and foremost.
Thanks for waiting, Mayor Light.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Thanks first and foremost for waiting. We went on a wee bit longer with Hearts than we intended to, but we will probably split the show up into two this week and give it separately, because I know that Hibs might not be in the mood to listen to 45 minutes of Hearts stuff this week.
Probably not be in the mood to listen to me either.
That's me. No, no different than any other week then, mate.
Very true.
But, yeah, it is, as we mentioned at the start of that, it is a unique occasion because it's the first Monday Night Football Hearts win in an Edinburgh Derby, so we did have to talk about it a wee bit longer than had it been the other way round. Unfortunately for yourself, it wasn't the other way round. Let's walk through the day a bit as we did with Scott. Let's discuss team selection. We'll discuss the important incidents from a Hibs perspective, and then we'll discuss where Hibs go from here. In terms of team selection, there was a couple of surprises. I was going to leave it till the end, but I think we'll probably just deal with it now. In the build-up, there was a bit of fallout from the trip to Portugal, which seems to have impacted pretty heavily on Anthony Stokes' Hibs career and the outlook for that going forward. What are your thoughts on what happened in Portugal and the fact that it seems to spell the end for Anthony Stokes at Hibs?
I think it's all just rumours now. I think what is clear is that, Stokes, Swanson and Boyle took a bit of liberties with giving, a wee bit of free time on the trip in Portugal. Probably, I think we knew with Stokes what we were getting there. We knew he wasn't going to be perfect. But we also thought that, given that he had his best spell of his career under Lennon at Celtic, that he could somehow, bring that sort of level of form to Hibs. To be honest, I'm more disappointed in Swanson and Boyle, because obviously Swanson's, personal issues over the last year have been well documented. It's not, and he's obviously been given a lot of support for the club, and now obviously none of us can really understand what he's went through. But I think to be given, the level of support that he has for the club, and to, take liberties like the way that he has, and also Martin Boyle's, got an indiscretion against him for drink driving. So it seems as if, alcohol at times can play a bit more of importance than what it should in a professional athlete's sort of lifestyle. But with Stokes, I mean, it's a weird one, because a lot of fans, you can't really be caught in the middle, because if you say anything bad against him, it's all, but he's a cup legend, he won us the cup, and he did, but you can't just live off that. His performances this season have been few and far between. The games where he has looked good, he's looked really, really good, but those have been, a handful, and people are pointing out where is his goals going to come from. 3 of his goals, I think 3 or 4 of his goals have came from open play. The rest have been penalties. So I think on the field, and especially for the rumours that I've been hearing off the field, then if they are true, then I think the club will be better off without him, in all honesty.
Okay, it is interesting. I hadn't thought about it from that angle until you mentioned it there, but when you mentioned the Martin Boyle thing, it actually brought me back to us sitting at Easter Road just after Hibs had won the Cup, and me sort of playing devil's advocate a wee bit and asking the question about Boyle had been all over social media and had been in and out of the Hibs club and basically had celebrated for a week after, and me saying, at what point does it become unprofessional? And there's almost a wee bit of that's kept in. Well, the point where he's breaking a curfew in what's supposed to be essentially a working break to Portugal to go on a bit of jolly with his mates, it does feel like Hibs fans loved that side of Martin Boyle after the Cup, but maybe you're right, maybe there is a bit of a lifestyle issue there, and it comes back to just, it's the Brendan Rodgers comment of being a 24/7 athlete to Lee Griffiths, that maybe Martin Boyle has a wee bit of adjusting to do on that front. The fact that he was included at the weekend seems to suggest that he's getting another chance. Is that how you would read that, or is it purely that with Stokes out they needed someone to be up there to help out Ollie Shaw? How do you see Martin Boyle and I suppose Danny Swanson's future? Would you expect that because they've not had quite as many negative marks against their name as Stokes in the past, that they'll get another go of it?
Well, from what from what I've heard, Swanson's going to be joining St Johnstone on loan again. Whether that actually goes through or not remains to be seen. With Boyle, I think obviously because he's no longer just signed a new contract, and I think if Lennon was to be, hard on one of them, he would need to treat them all three the same. But then we forget that Stokes has already been out of the team this season for, supposed off-field discretions. So I think Boyle's fine. I think he's more been given a rap from the back of the head and just been, more of a get your head down and get working.
As we say, maybe it's exactly what he needs.
Maybe. I think Boyle is quite lucky to be playing at a club the size of Hibs. I think if we, obviously if things had been different in the past and we hadn't been in the Championship and whatever, I don't think he would have found his way to Hibs. Because
he was a guy that was struggling at Dundee,
Hibs, yeah, when he joined Hibs, he was struggling to get a game for Dundee.
Yeah.
But I think he's fine. Swanson, like I say, is a weird one. I think we're all desperate for Danny to do well for Hibs. We all know what the club means to him. And we all know what the club means to, his family. And like I say, the issues that he's gone through over the past year, none of us, unless we were involved in it, can really begin to understand what he's going through. But there also has to become a time where, and I don't want this to sound bad, but try and use that as a motivation. Try and, use that to drive yourself forward. Whether Danny can do that or not, I really don't know.
I know exactly what you mean.
I don't want this to come across as disrespectful, given what Danny and everybody else has been through.
No, well, I know exactly what you mean in terms of there was a positive celebration on that topic, at the game on Sunday. It's being harnessed for good in a lot of respect, and it does. No one would want from that scenario to see Danny Swanson's career come to a halt or be negatively affected. And I think there is going to come a point where Danny's going to have to realise that it's a horrible situation, but the world does go on, and no one wants to see him come off the worst for it. And at the moment, unfortunately, he has hit a bit of an impasse in his career, and there is quite a lot of work to be done to bring it back. Maybe going back to St Johnstone, familiar surroundings, a familiar manager and Tommy Wright, a guy who knows how to get the best out of him. Maybe that's what he needs for 4 months, and then he can come back and hit the ground running with Hibs next season with a new mentality. But we will see. In terms of mentality, it's been questioned of Hibs on Saturday. What did you think when you saw Lennon's tactical setup? What was your thinking in terms of how he lined the team up? Obviously, Stokes' place essentially was taken by Vikintas Slivka, which I think was a wee bit of a surprise for some people, both in terms of the individual chosen and also the way it impacted the shape. What did you think?
Well, when I seen the team on this, because we were kind of thinking, is Lennon just been second guessing everybody with the whole Stokes thing and playing it down? And is he maybe going to be involved in the squad? Obviously, you see the team and he's not. So when I initially seen it, I tried to look at it as a more, it's going to be a weird 3-5-1-1 formation. With Slivka maybe playing in behind. Shaw trying to link up with them, and then obviously Boyle and Stevenson operating as wing backs. Subsequently, that's not what happened, and we went for the diamond with Shaw and Boyle up top, and that wouldn't have been my team. I think that despite for all the talk that Tynecastle's a lot smaller pitch, it's still within regulation size. So it's not like they're trying to play on a 4x3 bit of grass.
It's not a Sabitio pitch.
Exactly. And I was quite disappointed to see us sacrifice our width on that, given that, when we played them at Easter Road, that's where we had our most joy, was down the wings. And trying to take advantage of, the new guy at left back, Mitchell.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of going through the game, it's kind of difficult. We've just been through it with Scott, but it is always harder to look at from the losing side's perspective, because it doesn't really culminate in the same way. In terms of incidents for Hibs, as we say, the start of the game, I thought Hearts probably edged maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes, but then actually evened out to be a really, really even game with Hibs actually coming in. I thought Hibs' best spell in the half was the end of the first half. Just at the start of when Hibs really imposed themselves on the game, round about the 20th minute, they had a massive, massive chance through Martin Boyle, who we've discussed already. Firstly, before we get to that chance, what did you think of Hibs' start? Were you 15 minutes in, were you happy? Were you feeling like there was another gear to click up maybe? Or were you feeling like they needed to give themselves a wee bit of shake and get in the game? Where were you on the spectrum?
I pretty much, listening to you guys, I pretty much agree. I thought the first 15, 20 minutes was more Hearts. I don't know if that's when maybe the Naismith chance happened within the first 15, 20.
I think it was literally the 4th minute or something. The Naismith chance was incredibly early. So it was an early wake up call, and I thought, at times, sort of leading up to the sort of middle of the first half, that we were just going through the motions a wee bit. Okay.
There was I never felt that, we were in any danger, but also never felt that we weren't imposing ourselves enough on the game.
Mm-hmm.
And as we got to sort of, 20, 25 minutes, I felt that we started to edge it a wee bit. I thought we were retaining the ball pretty well, in the middle of the park. There was sort of wee triangles opening up where Stevenson, McGeoch and McGinn at times on the left-hand side, trying to get that opening. And, but it just seemed to be any time we made a move up to the sort of final third of the pitch, that it was just, it was maybe breaking down. There was a couple of times where Boyle tried to cut inside and have a shot.
Yep.
Defenders blocked it. There's one of them, if he just gets his head up, he slots Slivka in. Slivka's ghosted.
I didn't notice that at all until I watched the game back earlier today, I have to say. And they highlighted it really well on the television. Slivka is in acres of space on the edge of the box there.
Yeah, he's got if that pass comes through, he's got time to take a touch and shoot.
Yeah.
And then obviously you get to the chance itself, and why he's going it that way, his right foot, I don't know. It's a real bugbear in minds that, professional footballers, and this isn't just a dig at Martin Boyle, but it's a real bugbear in minds that professional footballers have, all the best facilities in the world, all the coaching and training that they can get, and yet there's still so many that are so one-footed. It's one thing that's just one of my own massive bugbears, and I think if he takes it on his left, it's a goal. It's
a funny one because Scott mentioned earlier about our sort of similar view at Tynecastle. We both sit in the main stand, and I have to say, from Section N in the new main stand at Tynecastle, obviously because of the dimensions, because of the angles, what I hadn't really realised until yesterday is that when players get in on the angle that Martin Boyle was there, and that Dimitri Mitchell got in on later from the Stephen A. Smith layoff at the free kick, it seems to sort of distort the game a wee bit to where that option at the front post, the gap at the front post, seems to look even bigger than it does in reality. So I have to say, watching the Boyle chance in real time, it looked like you could drive a bus through the gap at McLaughlin front post, that I thought it was the sitter to end all sitters when I saw it. Actually, when you watch it back, I feel like it's no as bad as we all reacted to it. It's no as bad as we thought. The ball comes to him a lot quicker. McLaughlin is hurtling across the goal to try and narrow the angle. I still agree, if he goes with his left, then it's probably 80-85% of the time that results in a goal for the player. When you go with your right, you massively reduce your chances of scoring. But I do feel like maybe at the time the initial reaction to it was a wee bit harsh on Martin Boyle. But you're completely right. If he goes with his left, he's got a much better chance of scoring. So why not just go with your left? It seems like an odd choice to make.
If he puts it back across the goal, McLaughlin's rushing, it hits off McLaughlin and goes in.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were saying, Marciano did brilliantly not to punch the Mitchell shot in. It could have been the exact same there. If he fires it across, McLaughlin scurrying across actually ends up knocking the ball in.
Well, don't know how. Like Marciano, that boy's got wrists of steel. How he gets that, I'll never know.
I've heard that about you before as well, that you've got wrists of steel. But let's not go. Let's not talk about that too much. Right, okay. So first half at half time, Scott and I mentioned we thought it was one of the most even halves of football we had ever seen. Were you thinking the same there as well?
Aye, and I mean, I remember looking at the stats at half time. I think it was 50-50 each. Shots were the same. I think you maybe had a couple more on target. You know, fouls conceded, fouls given. You know, I think we were pretty. You know, you would have been hard. You know, you'd be pressed hard to find a more sort of down the middle split game.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, because I thought that we ended the first half, like I say, without ever really imposing ourselves or creating too many clear-cut chances apart from the Boyle one. I mean, Shaw had one that a sort of near post header that went a wee bit over. I think McGinn had a shot where he slipped.
Yeah, and sort of ended up dinking it almost a yard over the bar.
Yeah, and then when you seen it back, it wasn't actually that far away.
No, it didn't miss by much considering how off balance he was when he struck it. Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, then you counter that with the Goncalves shot and the Naismith shot. So it was very much an even split.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody, either side. If either side had a went and a goal up, I think either side would have felt right to be agreed.
Yeah. Now, I feel like we're fixating a wee bit on the first half here with Hibs, and it's because of what came next, I think, in terms of, when you're talking about chances and shots at goal and things. A lot of that action for Hibs did happen in the first half, and we mentioned, Scott and I, that there did seem to be a big shift, the biggest shift of the game at half-time, and that Hearts came out for the next 15-20 minutes, probably had their best spell of the entire game. Why do you feel it changed? Firstly, do you agree that it changed and that the next 15-20 minutes were Hibs' worst spell of the game? And why? Do you have any opinion on why Hibs seemed flat at the start of that second half?
Maybe they were just, I don't know, maybe they thought for the first half that we weren't really going to carve out a clear-cut chance. And that maybe it was just safe to sort of maybe try and either, one, play for the draw and obviously get you back to Easter Road, or try and, keep it tight, and then try and maybe have a goal on the counter, maybe in the last, 5-10 minutes or whatever. But there was a definite shift. I think you could see it from, for the kick-off in the second half. I think we just seemed so flat-footed at times. There was no real urgency. When McGinn, McGeoch were getting the ball, it was just so deep that they couldn't really do anything with it. And it doesn't really help when eventually it gets to your only option is to maybe try and sort of, dink it up to Shaw, that they're playing it too high. And, balls like that are going to be, food and drink for somebody like Christophe Berra all day long.
Yeah, you mentioned the idea there as sort of settling for the draw. Not necessarily playing for the draw, and that you go in and if you can fashion a chance and create a chance, then obviously the game changes completely and it's all about winning. But did you feel that as the game wore on, there was a wee sense that draw more than do us here, keeps the unbeaten run going and takes them back to Easter Road as we have the last couple of years? And how much of that is just natural and couldn't have been combated, and how much of it maybe comes from the pressure of the unbeaten run, or even Neil Lennon? Do you feel that Neil Lennon, had maybe said in the week coming up, look, if we go there and win, brilliant. If not, then a draw will do us, just don't lose. What was the feeling on that front?
I think for me, it was not the fact that let's go and win the game. It was just let's not lose the game. I think the pressure, the unbeaten run, has been something that we've sort of had a good laugh out of. Because obviously, it's no, we weren't in the same league for a couple of years, and it was the majority of the games of that were in the cup. So, with the unbeaten run, it was more of a typical football fan trying to get a bite out of their opposition with that, because we knew, it was winding Hearts fans up, because, we were getting the whole, but, it's only 9 games, So the more they said that, the more we sang it and the louder we got. I don't think that really played too much on the minds of the Hibs players. I think it was just more complacency for me. Maybe looking at the Hearts team and thinking, like, they've got a 38-year-old, 37-year-old at centre-half. They've got a new boy at left-back. They've got a 16-year-old in the middle of the park. And they've got a guy that they've just signed on loan that's not played since August. So, if we go out there and play, don't even play to our full capabilities, then we'll still get something out of the game. Then, we're much more confident. Well, I'd be much more confident about getting a result back at Easter Road than I would at Tynecastle. So I think it's just a combination of complacency for certain players who just weren't at their game, and also, playing not to lose rather than playing to win.
Okay, and just on that, playing not to lose rather than win, where does that come from? Is that just natural in the players? Do you think that everyone goes in thinking mentally, well, would rather just, would be happy just to take this back to Easter Road because we've got a really good record against this Hearts team at Easter Road? Or do you think it is actually discussed in team meetings? Look, we'll take a draw here if it's not a clear win, if we're not all over them like a rash, then actually just, settle for 0-0 if that's on the table?
I think it's a bit of both things. It's more the complacency for me that steeps in. If you think off a pass isn't coming off, you just think,
yeah.
Do you know what, that one didn't come off, so instead of trying to play it again, what I'll do is I'll just play it to my right or I'll play it to my left and I'll try and get it back in a better position. I think as well, and this, I don't know if this sounds really weird, but there's, when you think about the games that we've been successful against Hearts, especially in the Cup, it's been the two games, were Wednesday night under the floodlights. There just feels something different about trying to, even as a fan, motivating yourself for a derby at 2:05 on a Sunday afternoon. Okay. There's something, for me, there's something completely different about, being under the floodlights and the sort of level of atmosphere that can generate. I just think that maybe that can maybe seep into the players at times, thinking, 2:05 on a Sunday.
Well, there is also the thing that it's a different kind of motivation to motivate yourself to continue a great run as opposed to end someone else's. And it is that's why there are so few champions who keep coming back year after year and dominate their sport and win time and time again, because there is a certain point where, as you say, complacency comes in, or just the fact that that general inconsistency can come in. Now and again you have a bad game, and we have said over the years that Hibs, while they can be a very, very good side and they can be a very, very average side, they're not the most consistent of teams, and the league form has shown that at times. Even in the Championship last season, a very similar Hibs team to this one dropped points in games they absolutely should not have been dropping points in, and it is a misnomer to an extent that inconsistency hadn't struck in the derby yet. And I think yesterday, that's something that people have glossed over a wee bit, because in the derby people always want to talk about passion and effort and commitment. But actually maybe there was just an element of, well, John McGinn isn't he always a 10 out of 10 player? Some weeks he is a 6 out of 10 player. Yeah. And yesterday I thought we even saw more consistent guys like Dylan McGeoch, who tends to be a 7 or 8 out of 10 player every single week. He even had a bit of an off day and didn't influence the game as much. As we're sort of segueing on to personnel before we really dissect it for the last 5 minutes of the game coverage, one of the big events in the last 20 minutes or so of the game focused on one of Hibs' personnel, and it was Marvin Bartley's injury, we believe. He was obviously substituted for Simon Murray. Do you believe that substitution was made solely because of the John Souttar tackle? Was there any hint of a tactical change there, or do you think it would be unthinkable to take Marvin Bartley off when you would happily settle for 0-0 in the last 15-20 minutes of the game?
No, I think it has to be down to the injury. I mean, I've said it so many times that, I've said it since he signed, that these games are the games that we need somebody like Bartley for. Just a big destroyer in the middle of the park who, take those, make those sort of niggly fouls in areas where you didn't really want to concede fouls, or, in areas where teams can't really punish you, but it gives your team the chance to sort of, stop and reset and take stock. So that for me was, I think, Lennon getting a bit desperate, maybe sensing that the game maybe was starting to slip away a wee bit. And
was it a brave sort of attacking move from Lennon to put Murray on in his place, or does it shine a light on a bit of a weakness in Hibs' squad at the moment, that he's one guy they've no got a like-for-like replacement for?
Well, I think in fairness, there wasn't really anybody else that he could replace him with.
So that's what I mean. Is it a case that Marvin Bartley's position is so specialised in the squad that actually, if he gets injured, Hibs have to change their whole tactics because they've no got a guy they can slot in to do a similar job? No,
because I think we can just adapt the tactic. There would have been nothing wrong with, even, with taking Bartley off and putting on, Reras or Porteous and going with 5 at the back.
Yeah.
I think it was more just a case of we had Barker on at that time. Maybe let's, go with what we were successful with at Easter Road, go with a 4-4-2. Easter Road was a 4-5-1. But, now that we had Shaw up there, with Barker on and Boyle on the one side, I thought we were just going to go, right, let's just stick him up top beside Shaw and go with a 4-4-2 and see if we can make anything stick. But unfortunately for me, the two central midfielders were that far off their game, in my opinion, yesterday, that I don't think no matter what system we played would have really changed much. Obviously, Bartley going off doesn't help, but I don't think it contributed overall to the result in the end.
It just seemed at the game, it seemed like a slightly weird contradiction, because it did feel like this sort of feeling had swept over the game that this is the same thing again. This is deja vu, both in the league game in terms of a bit of a drab 0-0 result in the end, but also in terms of the previous couple of occasions where you're thinking this is going to replay Easter Road and we're underdogs again. And it felt very much like Hibs had embraced that at that stage of the game, that with 10-15 minutes to go, they were thinking, well, actually this is really a win for us in the grand scheme of things, as we mentioned, both in terms of the unbeaten run and in terms of making yourself strong favourites for getting through to the next round. It just then felt a wee bit jarring to see a striker come on for a holding midfielder, because that's fine if actually, no, we don't want an extra game in the calendar, we're going all out for it, we think they're here for the taking in the last 10 minutes, we're going to go and win it. It felt like that wasn't really the mentality, but it was the tactical approach, and it just, I don't know, it didn't quite sit right, and I think that's why people have fixated on it in terms of, I mean, the goal ultimately comes from a set piece. Bartley obviously is a physical guy, but he wouldn't be marking Christoph Berra. So it really, you're right, his departure for the game probably didn't add to it. But I think that slight dislocation between what Hibs were actually happy to achieve and what the changes they were making on the park to try and reach it is, I think, why people fixated on Bartley's departure and maybe placed more importance on it than there actually was.
Yeah.
On to the goal though, well, firstly, Boyle has a massive chance where, to be fair to him, I don't know if he could do any better with it. He does everything you could possibly ask of him. He gets it, he hits it as hard as he can, and he hits it on target, and McLaughlin comes up with a good save. At that point, are you thinking actually the momentum switched again here and we can potentially win this in the last 5 minutes, or are you thinking that's a chance gone, settle in, take 0-0 now?
Because if we get the corner, we've got nobody that can take set pieces. So,
well, to be fair, that Boyle volley came from him against set piece, but it did take a bit of a fortunate head flick on a Boyle before it got there.
Yeah, but I mean, even for corners, we're just, corners and throw-ins, we are just dreadful from at this moment in time. Throw-ins, I think we've been put at throw-ins ever since I first started going at the games in 1997.
That was a common theme on the television coverage, I have to say, was they kept pinpointing how Neil Lennon was raging with the distribution from throw-ins. And you saw it a few times when Effie Ambrose came over to take a throw-in front of him, and Neil Lennon was he was snarling at Effie Ambrose at that stage. And I think one of the times
he wasn't the only one.
I think one of the times he's actually still in the process of shouting at Ambrose as Ambrose throws the ball right to a Hearts player. It was somewhat laughable.
Our ball retention for throw-ins and the sort of options that we offer is really poor. Touching on Ambrose, one thing that I did pick up yesterday during the game was, I think Darren McGregor probably lost his voice for screaming at him. Yeah. And I don't think he was alone in that. I don't understand why we sign someone who's he's a right-footed left back, but then that means he can surely play right back. To then play a centre back. With Hearts showing that they were comfortable enough to pitch in Naismith and Mitchell after only a few days training, I don't see why we couldn't have done the same with their ass. Okay, well let's just pause that for 1 minute, because we will touch on the transfer business as we wrap up.
On the game, obviously the goal then happens. Neil Lennon's spoken about, he felt that the team switched off and that they maybe got caught up in the previous attack and didn't actually get back and weren't as committed as they should have been to the set piece that happened. What do you attribute that to? Because this Hibs team hasn't really been known to switch off in the last minute. Actually, quite the opposite. They've come up with a couple of really huge results in the club's history in the last minute. What was it that was different about yesterday in the last 5 minutes?
Maybe it was just, like I say, it was the whole potential, complacency part and thinking, right, we've got the draw. We've played 87 minutes now, and nothing's really. We've not been at our greatest, but then with us not being at our greatest, Hearts still haven't really been able to break us down.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe more just a case of, right, we'll just deal with this as it comes in and we'll get rid of it. And I mean, you need. I don't want to sound too negative because obviously it is gutting to lose a derby. However, it has taken a really scrappy goal to beat us. And we were 3-4 minutes away from getting a draw and going back to Easter Road. And myself personally, I would much rather at this stage where we are just now lose to Hearts in the Cup than I would to lose in the league if I was given the choice between the two.
Okay, fair enough.
So there is. Yes, yesterday's game wasn't the greatest, but when you look at it, we had, in my opinion, there was only 3 players that could take pass marks for yesterday, and that was Marciano, McGregor and Hanlon.
Okay.
Apart from that, there wasn't much to write home about for the rest of them. Especially McGinn and McGeoch, I thought they weren't their greatest in the middle. I thought Cochrane had a good game against McGinn especially.
Mm-hmm.
He's shown that he wasn't afraid to get himself stuck in at times.
Okay, I think that probably says all we need to then on yesterday's performance. We've got 1.5 minutes left. So, firstly, all quick fire short answers here, mate. How surprised were you not to see McLaren in yesterday's lineup and not even come off the bench?
Very. I don't see the point in signing players like that. If we're hearing this guy's a poacher, he's incredible in the box. So why is he not being? People are saying, you can't pitch him into a game like that. Well, if you can't pitch him into a game like that, what kind of game can you pitch him into? Fair
point. How satisfied are you thus far with Hibs' transfer business in the window?
Well, the Rera signing sort of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us really expected that, but it's an area that we're short in. Especially if we get an injury to Stevenson, so I guess he'll give us cover for the last sort of 4 or 5 months of the season, and I think Bain's purely been brought in just as cover for Laidlaw whilst he's injured. I don't know if that'll maybe get extended because I think after yesterday's performance, Rocky's possibly getting a bit of confidence back. As that save will do him the world of good, I think.
Okay, Neil Lennon seemed to hint yesterday that he wasn't aware of any transfer business on the go. He may have just been being coy, not to give anything away. Do you expect any more deals this window?
Alex, I expect Stokes to leave.
And do you expect to bring anyone in to replace him?
I think they have to.
Okay, right. I think we'll.
And also I think we'll maybe see a bid from McGinn as well.
Okay, right, we will leave it there. Thanks very much for joining me, Craig, and thank you everyone at home for listening to this week's Monday Night Football on Radio Salter. We will speak to you again very, very soon.